on page 99 in the 12 by 12. It's one of the last paragraphs of the St. Francis prayer. Here's the reading. For, meaning F-O-R, for it is by forgetting that it is by self-forgetting that one finds. I'll read it one more time. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds.
Yes.
And thank you, Paul. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jack, for hosting, and nice to see everybody. Yeah, that's part of the St. Francis prayer. So the activity of self-forgetting would be forgetting of self. You don't want self to be forgetting, because that's another form of remembering self. You want to be forgetting self, in a way. Yeah, self-forgetting would be more remembering of self, really. Don't you see? Because then the idea of you would be doing an act called forgetting you. Wouldn't that be remembering you? Yeah, there you go. There's the conundrum. Yeah. You wanting to get out of you is more of a belief that you're in you. It just doesn't work. That's it's a little mental Chinese thumb torture thing, yet you'll find it constantly, that self is attempting to get out of self. Once you have an understanding, they're like a pair of glasses. So the same thing you used to see, you'll see differently. Not that those things have changed, it's just the glasses you're wearing. Allows you to see something you weren't seeing before. And what better to lead to an intimacy with the solution? There needs to be an intimacy with the problem. You need to see it. Yeah. In this case, because if you don't see the act of identification as self as not something you're doing, but that the mental state is doing. If you don't see that the act of being identified as self is not something you and I are doing, it's a mental state is doing it. Yeah. It's incredibly important. The sense of you or self will have it as I'm in the act of being identified as self. And it'll be another thing you want to get out of, yeah? Or another thing that produces heaps of guilt and shame. I can't believe I've been identifying as self. No, it's a mental activity called the act of being identified as self. If we're not aware of it, we get swept into it, yes? It just becomes a strong habit. And so every time, like if you read, the thing of you will, you'll never have any opinion about anything like that. You're believing, oh, it's me. Me will never have an opinion. No, there's a loss of an opinion. There's not you losing the opinion, yeah? It's so important to recognize, because the language is sort of how it's like a military marching of our understanding. Yeah, the language has us first and foremost strutting down the road of happy destiny, or trudging, whatever. Yes, we're questioning that. We're questioning the noun that's always implied to be before all the verbing. Maybe you're just, I think a spiritual condition is an activity. It's not a thing. Yeah, this idea of you as a thing is in a way the problem. And alcoholism was just an exasperation of that. It's just, if it felt like to me there was a lot of fertile ground there, and then alcoholism just emphasized or amplified a lot of it. Yeah. So we used to always joke around with it, like you have a strain of jealousy running through it, and then you get loaded, you're up on stalking charges. It would bring and an amplification to these things. And it would suck in one way and it's great in another way, because maybe you'll see it when it's amplified. Yeah. When it's not so amplified, you may not notice it. So at least it catches your attention. And if you can just put on another pair of glasses and see it through a different understanding, you may get another result from it. Yeah. Everything that's described isn't you. It's about a you. Yeah. It's a mental image. It's a manufacturing. Just like the mental, something manufactures misery. Something manufactures this idea of being a self. Yeah. And it's such a freaking fragile product. It has to reinforce it. It's sort of like Budweiser beer. Budweiser beer sucks. It always has sucked. What they do is they change the can, or they make 4 entrance holes or something, but they never change the fucking product. It's the same shit. But they advertise so much that people keep buying it. Yeah? Something that's good can stand on its own. It doesn't need tons of fucking advertising. Stuff that sucks has to disguise it by advertising, showing the mountains behind a beer. What is that implying? You're going to be hiking through the Rockies drinking a Budweiser? Give me a break. The head is just like that. It has no solid foundation, so it just yaps all day about what I was Paul, I will be Paul. Therefore, I am Paul now. And I've done all this shit. I don't want to learn any more about what I've done. So I'm just going to go into denial, keep it fucking stupid, simple. I just don't want to know. I just want to not act out at the July 4th picnic. And that could be a success, and that's great. But the bondage of self carries itself well into whatever activity you're in, sobriety or fucking active addiction. And isn't that the exact nature of the wrong? I don't have a different view on the steps. All I have is a different view on what's the exact nature of the wrong. That voice that talked to you before you got sober is still talking to you after you got sober. It's still presenting itself as you, isn't it? It took a while. It regrouped. It started wearing, looser clothing maybe, or fucking had a nicer demeanor. But it's doing the same thing it used to do with your drug use. Critiquing it, narrating it, fucking complaining, blaming, rationalizing, excusing. It's just a failed system. Yeah, it doesn't deliver the goods. It just has to make up convoluted stories why you're not happy, joyous, and free under its guidance. And it just puts it off. You will be after you get these 5 or 10 or 30, 50 requirements met. And while you're doing that, the requirements change. You never get there, do you? Yeah. Because it can't deliver. Yeah. It's so weird in this life. We look backwards for our best days, like when we were kids. Yeah. Has it just been going downhill ever since? We yearn for the older days when we were, shitting in our pants and shit like that, and we had tree-like humans taking care of us. Has it gone that bad? Jesus Christ. So, yeah, the alcohol and the drugs has to stop if they're being used by this mental state to do what it's doing. Or those are the requirements. We need to be convinced of some stuff. Some of it, very little of it, has to do with alcohol and drugs. It has to do with, we have to be convinced, and a life run on self-will is hardly going to be a success. It doesn't mention alcohol or drugs at all in there. Yeah. We got to be convinced that self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. We got to be convinced of these things. Why? Because that's the true diagnosis. Yeah. If you're convinced that it's something else and you're mistaken, you're going to have a rude awakening. You're going to think things are going to disappear when you stop drinking, but they keep appearing because you didn't get to the cause. So I feel like if you really get a true diagnosis or you find the right ointment, it's the right ointment because you got relief from the rash. I mean, real relief. Yeah. Not temporary, unless you want to call 34 years temporary. That's pretty good. I'll call it a temporary relief. 34 freaking years is pretty damn good. Yeah. I had to lather myself in the beginning, but I don't have to lather myself with it. There's not that many signs of rashes anymore. It got to the root of it, yeah? It's not managing a rash. I live a lot of days without having a rash, yeah? That's what I'm looking for. Freedom from the bondage of self. What does it look like? Self-forgetting. That's what it looks like. Yeah. That's how we're reborn. Is see that we weren't born as a Paul. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm so happy that there is a solution, really. Yeah. I mean, you can see yourself in bad conditions and other people, and it's always incredible to have an underlying belief that there is a solution. Yeah. That this is not a hopeless state of mind and body. It's a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. It's appearing to us based on how we're framed. Yes? That can change. Hallelujah. So you can see something that was seemingly hopeless as not. Yeah? And live free from it for 34 years. Hallelujah. Mm. Do you really want to believe the highest goal is becoming a great manager of shit? You pick up the shit quicker and faster than anyone else. Yeah, you know every version of shit. You've seen it all. And you're a great picker up or a great pooper scooper of shit. Or do you want to just find the dog? Yeah. You won't have to pick up so much shit. Find the dog. Yeah. That's the solution. There's a temporary solution. Yeah, learning how to pick up shit fast. Great. But I mean, to me, that's not the end all be all. It's finding the dog, losing interest in that which is the cause of our dilemmas. Yeah. Maybe suddenly we'll be experiencing causes that create gratitude and fucking whatever. So hey, I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul.
Isn't that the requirement? To be found, self-forgetting is necessary. Yeah. AA, being convinced, and it talks about something. Yeah, so the being convinced is necessary. It's the requirement. Believing with certainty something, yes, that's actually on the mark. Then results occur. But it's always preceded by a condition. Yeah? Self-forgetting, loss of interest in self. Okay? And then suddenly you see that life and what you can contribute to it. You get interested in others. All this stuff happens more and more and more, but it's predicated on a loss of interest in self. Yeah? Now, how does self keep generating interest in itself? We're attempting to share about it. Yeah? Hopefully some of it lands and maybe you can see it. You can see how self can't get out of self by seeing how it's constantly trying to do that. Yeah? And then you'll come to a conclusion. You'll be convinced. Yeah. You won't have to go through every example of advertising. You'll see all of its advertising is bogus. Yes? There'll be a leap of understanding. It won't have to be each moment. You'll have an assurance that you're in good hands because you've recognized the old hands you used to be in. Yeah? We have a new employer. What does that motivate us to do? Make sure we see what the old employer was like. Yes? So it doesn't masquerade as the new employer. We catch the thief before it's in the house. Yeah. Yep. Thank you. Anyone?
Thanks, Paul. If anyone has a question for Paul, please raise your hand.
Judy has her hand up.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Okay, Judy, go ahead.
I really enjoyed what you said, Paul, but in my journey for peace, love, and happiness, I'm going along pretty nicely. I'm on I found a new this journey to be renewing, and there's a calmness and a peacefulness I've never had before in all my 25 years in the 12-step program. And then I got a text from somebody.
Judy, hold on 1 second. Back up 2 words back and just stop for a second. Your description of how things have really changed before you jet right into the next thing. Yeah?
Yeah.
Just stop there for just a second, everyone. Have some gratitude for that. And now launch into what happened. Yeah.
That's a good point, Paul, because what do you hear? So I get a text, and
Yeah.
the text said, "I miss you," and whammo.
Was it from Self? How did it get my number?
It's had my number.
Sorry,
And
go ahead.
I said, who wants this peace, love, and happiness? I want to go out there and have that part of me wanted what he was projecting. You know, you get my age, you get older, you don't think you ever have a chance of any more excitement in your life. You live this beautiful life. But I wanted that. And I was this, I said, what happened to your sense of self and staying in the moment? So have you ever experienced that in the last 30 years, 35 years, where something came back you wanted that you knew wouldn't be good for you?
Yes.
And what did you do?
I went for it anyway and I got the consequences. That's what happened. I'll give you an example. Perfect one. Maybe 2nd or 3rd year of sobriety. Used to go to an area of San Francisco to a meeting on Thursday night in North Beach. Very nice area. Great old Cafe Trieste. Go there to have a coffee. Beautiful girl worked there. Yes. Took a shining to her. You know, we were talking. Then I found out she was married. So that was that. Yes. At least I had that wisdom in place. And so I went about my little business. And then one day I lived in the Haight, Ashbury. I was walking down the street and she came by with another girl and she says, "Hey, I'm so happy to run into you. I've separated from my husband and whatever." Yeah, so bing, okay, we can get together. All right. So she says, "And I'm dancing at this Brazilian club, you know, come on down." So I go down there, you know, everyone's standing, you know, watching the dance show and she's in there with other women. And most people are holding beers and stuff. And then I didn't know it, but her husband was at the bar, and her number one boyfriend was about 3 people from me. So I was number 3 on the hit parade. And I was going, wait a minute, what am I getting myself into? So I go home and I do an inventory on it. Yeah. I want to get AA's answer. And AA's answer is don't go there. But I overrode it. I wanted to see this lady. So I did. And that should be sufficient. The laughing about my demise. So the funny thing is, I fell for it, produced a lot of fucking incredible drama and shit. And then I fell for it, and then she left town, and then she came back. I fell for it again, and then that was that. Yeah. So yeah, I went against the advice of the program, because what's beautiful about an inventory, it's going to produce an answer, but not yours. Yeah. You're going to see your answer in a different light. But I also learned, hey, if you want to fucking go for it, just be accountable. I don't want you to call me up and whine and bitch. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Hey, you stepped out in the shit. Now fucking walk around with it. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead. Do whatever you want to do, but at least be accountable for it. And yeah, because I cannot take personally hours of people talking to me about something they knew they shouldn't do, and they did it anyway. Yeah, because I sometimes find it's a disservice to keep people from their bottoms. Yeah. So if you want it that much, fucking go ahead and do it, and then just be accountable for whatever happens.
I don't think I would have brought it up. I wanted somebody to say something, and you're the best person to say anything. I heard you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah. But I mean, it's really, we learn a lot of ways, yeah, and we're very attracted to the hard way. I would say most alcoholics. So you learn how to face life successfully by not facing life successfully. You know, yeah. Yeah.
My life was getting too quiet. I can't take the peace and quiet. I need the
Oh, then you just put on some loud music. There you go.
I like salsa dancing. Maybe I'll go salsa dancing.
Yeah, go see. This is the beauty of it. It doesn't have to be one way or the highway. There's other things you can do. This is called facing life successfully. Yeah. I want to have some fun. Ding, I've got to shoot cocaine. No, that's not the only way I can have fun. I can do, there's a lot of intermediate things that I could possibly do. It doesn't immediately go wing. This is that dualistic head. It's so very black and white. Yeah. Fun can't be when I'm sober, so I've got to be unsober to have fun. It's insane, isn't it? This is the advertising of the head we're talking about. You've got to realize K Judy is just like K Paul. It's like a franchise of the Unclear channel. It's a radio station that's propaganda. Yeah.
But it sneaks up
Trying
on
to
you.
convince you to do something. It wants to bring you to its own idea of fuck it, which is, oh, fuck it, and pick up a drink. Yes. Then the genie's out of the bottle and you have to live its 800 wishes. That's insane. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that. Because if you kept it to yourself, then you may do it. You know, it's nice to put it out there and you can hear other people's opinion and go, hey, yeah, that one way may not be the only way I can have fun or feel alive again. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome. Some of this is hard earned, you know. We learn lessons in a hard earned way, but you're convinced after a while. You are. You're like, I'm convinced, yeah. Well, I could go into it, but not necessary. But I've been convinced of a lot of things, and luckily that convincing has brought about an abstinence to certain shit that doesn't have no interest in it anymore. Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Okay, Paul, thank you. And Catherine A. from Maine has her hand up. Hi, Catherine.
Hey,
Catherine A.
Hi, guys.
hello. Oh, from
I really got a lot out of that last one. Thank you, Judy, for bringing up that question. I went for it, and I had some Sprite and I went for it and drank and came back, and it's probably the best thing I did because it humbled me to a certain point. But my question or my comment, Paul, thank you, is hearing in because so reflecting on the steps, hearing I'm working on my defects. I'm working on my defects, you know that. Can you spread some light out on that 6 and 7 and this self-forgetting piece? Because that's what came to me as I was listening to this. Thank you.
Yes. Well, first of all, I don't call them my defects anymore. I'm not into that. I don't. Language has a power, yeah. The language can have you believing you're already handcuffed when you're not. So I don't believe that they're my defects. So, yeah, that's one of them, which allows a certain fearlessness when they're going on. And I bring that stuff when I notice it. Sometimes I go through phases where there's not much happening, but when I notice it, I see a defect of character, yeah, maybe rooted in self and amplified by alcoholism. I bring that right to step 6, and I proclaim I'm entirely ready to have this reconfigured. I don't like the word removed with energy because I don't think you can get rid of things. I think they can change, yeah. Yeah, I think their energy, and then they take a form, and that form can be broken and be put into another form with the energy, like gold. You know, gold's a ring, gold's a bracelet. You could melt down the bracelet to the gold and make it a ring. Yeah, it's the gold is the essence of it. So, and then I humbly ask that power to do it. That's what I do. I follow the way it says in the book. So it also says in A Vision for Us that we know but a little, and this thing is constantly revealing stuff to us. I think a lot of what is revealed to me is what I'm not, is about alcoholism. Yeah. And then I take that to step 6 and 7 when it's revealed. Yeah. So like someone shares and I can feel a little twinge, or I identify with that share. I take that and I say, hey, I'm entirely ready to have this reconfigured. And the closer you get it from the oven, because it's softer then, so it can be easily changed, is I don't like the forensic unit. I rather get much closer to when it's cooking. So, yeah. Yeah. So I've gotten into the habit of that, and I've noticed in long-term sobriety, that's the most active steps, really, 6 and 7. Yeah. So, yeah. And I truly believe that what you see in that awareness and bring to step 6 and 7, those things change for sure. Yeah. And there was a funny thing a guy said once. One of his sponsees was doubting if anything changes in us, and how would he know in step 6 and 7? And the guy says, well, just act as if it has, and it did. So act as if it's been changed, and it seems to, and it does. Yeah. So which comes first doesn't matter, the chicken and the egg. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I see it. So when something like what Judy was sharing, something tells me I've been missing out on, yeah, I've heard that disguised in a lot of forms. Yeah, I've been missing out on it and whatever, and you got this like sense of entitlement as I deserve all this. I'm suspicious of the source of that yapping. I don't see it. I don't see it as me. Yeah, I see it as the selfing and stuff. Yeah, it's healthy. It's because once there's a recognition, like it says about the fear, fear is like a thread that runs through the fabric of our existence. If the fabric of our existence is color brown and fear is a color brown, it's going to be difficult to recognize it. Yeah. But if you can see it not as your fear, but fear, it gives you an ability to recognize it. Yeah. Yeah. And then you see really the thread of fear is actually, if you follow it back, it's rooted in the knot of reliance on self. Yeah. That's where the real relief from fear is seeing the reliance on self. Yeah. Because fear is an effect of that. People are giving fear the role of being a cause, and it does cause a lot, but it's an effect of something else, which is self-reliance in the diagnosis in the big book. Self-reliance is why we have so much fear today. What? Yeah. And what's self-reliance? If there's a reliance on something, you're not that something, obviously. Yeah. If you're relying on you, who is it that's relying on you? There's relying on you, but who is that that's relying on you? Yes? So when there's a relying on something, there's someone else there, or I don't see it as a someone, but there's an energy there that's relying on another idea called self. Yeah? We are that. I would say that's spirit, unformed and undirected. Yeah? Is directed by the mental state to rely on self and then try to live life looking through those self's glasses. And for many of us, it's not that satisfying. And it drives us to try to do things, to get out of something or get into something. And hopefully it has great value because it hopefully brings attention to the underlying reliance on self that we've been living from without knowing what is that which is relying on self. It's not self. Yeah. It's something else other than that. Yeah. And maybe that something other than that is what's truly reliable. And it loses that reliability by relying on self. Yeah. When there's a loss of interest in the relying on self, you start sensing you're in good hands again. I feel, let's call it a higher power, to give it a name. Yeah. But now, and I had to get out of the years of trauma of relying on self. It was fucking a rocky ride, fucking terrible. Like living in like earthquake land. I lived by the tremors after the earthquakes for years. Yeah. They needed to be worked on through the program of recovery. Recovery from what? Reliance on self, really. That's what we're recovering from. We are. We're recovering from a rough road of reliance on self. Incredible for some
It
of
is.
us.
Yeah, it's so true. I love being in the place of gratitude today through this process.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
that unsuspected inner resource I would say is us, really. And that us, which is truly reliable, seemingly forgot that by relying on self. Tell you the truth,
Mm-hmm.
And but the self isn't something that goes down easy. It has its own agenda, almost like a living thing, and it overrides our agenda. It doesn't want to, no, even when we seem to have had enough, it hasn't had enough of us yet. Yeah.
Mm.
Because the identification keeps everything very hazy. We can't recognize self as self. We keep calling it Paul, or aspects of it as Paul. Therefore, there's a binding still. And we got to go through stuff for that to be revealed. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, because it's
I-
unreliable. It says it in our book. Any life run on self-will will hardly be a success. It didn't say an alcoholic's life. It said any life. Yeah.
Yeah.
A
My fil-
recovered life based on self will hardly be a success.
my fi- my filter today is more on motives. Whenever I think I've got an idea, I look at like where am I going with that? What am I doing with that? Like, and then when I realize my motive is not pure, I'm like, I don't fucking need to be doing that.
Yeah, that's great to have the eyes. That's getting to the habit of traveling lighter for sure.
Mhm.
The payoff cost ratio you know, drug and alcohol seems to offer a payoff and with a minimal cost, and yet it as time goes on, the cost is quite extravagant and there's very little payoff. So it's a bad deal to begin with. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. We can't know that spirit. We are that spirit. We can't know that which is before reliance on self, because we are that which is before reliance on self. We are not a self relying on self. We are something completely other than that, relying on self. Yeah. That's why self trying to get out of self doesn't work. If it was self relying on self, it could do it. Yeah. It could get out of reliance on self by seeing the trickery, because trying to get out of the reliance on self is reliance on self. That's the dilemma. See, everyone likes the idea of keep it simple, but there is a complexity to the illusory activity. Yeah. If you want to keep it real simple, it doesn't. It's doing a little bit of mathematics on your ass, and it's leading you to live a life of trying to get out of self as self. Yeah, keep it really simple, but that doesn't work. I love simplicity, but sometimes the complexity of selfing hides in it. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with some acute awareness or some intellect. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So thank you, Kathy A. Or Catherine A. Yeah.
Paul, we have two more hands up. We'll call on Kim Nelson.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Kim, how are you?
I'm okay. It's good to be
Uh,
here. I've been sharing my journey. I have been contemplating the second half of step 1 for some time now, and my perception has changed a lot. And I'm noticing that mentally I'm like extremely confused, like really confused. Like my brain really feels like it's just short circuiting, and things that used to make sense to me like don't make any sense to me. And normally, like when I would go through a state of confusion like this, it feels kind of like I'm losing my mind, because things that are normal routine tasks for me, or thoughts that are routine tasks, are routine. But I feel like I'm having a hard time even grasping some of my old ideas, like how much I should weigh and what I need to do today and all this other shit.
yeah.
And it kind of feels like my brain is like this helium balloon that's sort of floating away. And normally in this circumstance, like I would get really afraid and hold on to it. Like I have to cling on to this idea, like self is my thoughts. And right now I'm experiencing this kind of like there's like a new path. Like I'm coming, like my gut is sounding louder than my brain. And it's contrary to what my brain thinks I should be doing. I'm at work today and I'm supposed to sign up for this like membership to this exclusive Hollywood thing. And I couldn't even fucking care less about being a member of this stupid club. And I feel like, I don't know, it just feels like something is like my brain is like rewiring, and I don't quite know if it's just like a state of confusion, or if it's like this is part of the process. It just, I feel very, very disoriented, but at the same time, where I normally would feel very afraid of being so disoriented, I feel calm about it. Like it's okay that I don't need to rely on what is going on up here so much, because I know in my heart, like everything is okay, even though everything up here is really scrambled and upside down. Like right here in my heart, I feel like everything is just the way it should be. And this doesn't need to be okay in order for me to be okay. I don't, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I'm just,
Makes a lot of sense. Sounds like it's working. Yeah. There's got to be a discernment between the head and the gut. Yeah. So it seems like it's working. Yeah. You listen to the gut, you've listened to the head, and you compare the fruit and you judge the tree by the fruit. Yeah. The gut's the way to go, but a lot of people don't go there immediately. They have to realize the head isn't the way to go, and it's like a default mechanism, and then they go to the gut. Yeah. So it's a very nice description, hon. Yeah. There's a cleaning of the house, but the owner of the house, you, isn't that disturbed by it. He knows it's going to be a bigger, better house. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of us have gone through that, I'm sure, and still go through it at times. Yeah, because we're getting, like it's sort of like a new furniture and a new carpet, like, a new attitude and a new outlook. The house may sound noisy when the old carpet and furniture is getting taken out. Yeah, now the new shit's getting put in. Yeah, and you're much happier. Yeah, there you go. What is it? In with out with the what, and then in with the good, whatever. Yeah, yeah. That's great, hon. That's great. That was a very good description of a changing of the gods, so to speak. Yeah, the God. The lower God is being put in its place, and the higher power is becoming more influential in the experience called Kim. Hallelujah. Yeah. Yep. Anyone else, Jack? That was great. Nothing else to say, really. Just perfect. It's sort of like the gravitational pull. You got the self gravitational pull, and then you enter the space of the higher power, and it starts pulling you. Yeah. Now, there'll be tugs from the old gravitational pull, but it's the change isn't going to be reversed. Yeah, you're just getting pulled into the other gravitational pull of the higher power. Yeah, and that's a pretty good description of that journey. Yeah, yeah. All right.
Paul, we have Dan H. has his hand up. If you want to go ahead, Dan.
Yep.
My name is Dan, and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Paul, for your for holding this space and doing this. And really, I'm kind of spaced out listening, and then I just realized Kim really, yeah, I think she might have said kind of where I'm at. Although I have a lot of grief stuff going on. I don't want to think maybe we, I think maybe we go through periods like this. I think we go through times. And I don't know. I just wanted to connect. I feel like I'm doing a good job of not getting this. It's going over my head, and that's where it's supposed to go, like you say, you know. And
Yes.
there have been times recently where I was grasping at straws because I've been sober a long time. I feel good helping other people. That's where it's always at. I know the answers in a certain way. I can listen well. And it seems to be that I'm of genuine help. And then I'm going, but what? I'm screwed. Wow, I'm helping people, but I'm screwed. And that's a weird place to be. So I back off a little bit. And I decided the thing to do isn't, meditated away. The thing to do isn't, at times, 6 and 7, step 6 and 7, pray, basically, if it be your will, remove this and really just lay down my weapons, lay down my arms, just surrender. And then there's a feeling of peace in the grief, at times. And I can't say if I do that, it happens, because that's not how it works at all. But that's where I've been at. But then there's times of desperation where I'm like, well, which kind of 12-step meeting do I need? Which kind of book should I read? What kind of, where I get frantic to fix it. And who should I help? I'm like, well, I got the cart. That's putting the cart before the horse, And so I've just been in that space. I used to live in that space. It was horrifying when I got sober. It's not like that. It's, it's just, hey, this is one of those times, I guess. And I get something, well, I don't know the right way to say it, I keep getting drawn back to listening to this. And I think, I appreciate this. Thank you. Pass.
Great. Thank you, Dan. And remember, I think people stay after the meeting also. And, sometimes what's needed is just a sense of belonging. Share the situation you're in.
Mickey straightened me out last time.
Because time is, you weren't there before, you won't be there after. Yeah, it's a temporary activity, moving hopefully to a different end. Yeah, I find everything is put to good use, really. And so you get to see that everything has value. Yeah, it's not a black or white event. So yeah, I'm happy you're here, and these are phases you go through. Sometimes you grieve, sometimes there's just a sadness based on inability to have viable relationships with others when you were young or whatever. Yes, and a lot of stuff comes, it doesn't kill you. And yeah. And it maybe make you more, or it brings out a maximum of use for yourself and others, so yeah. But it's always important to keep it in perspective, and because I know the head likes to forget a miracle in a half an hour, but likes to think you're entering a lifelong depression when you feel a little bit of discomfort. So you gotta recognize its little antics of amplifying aspects and then minimizing other aspects. Yes? Yeah. It's like a trumpet with a bias. Yeah. It muffles some notes and it amplifies other notes. Now, unfortunately, with us, we're thinking we're the trumpet doing it. But we're just that which is being played, really. Yeah, we are an employee. We are being used by an employer. One aspect of an employer is the higher power. The old employer would be seen as a lower power. They're what's playing the notes through us. Yeah, we tend to give all glory to the higher power, but we don't give accountability to the lower power. I'd like to see that more, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
We claim all of the lower power notes as ours, and then but we have the ability to see notes as not ours because we claim all the other notes being played by the higher powers as the higher powers. I don't see the difference really. Why is it we're not seeing what was playing the notes before? We call them ours. Yeah, I would say that's the bondage of self. Tell you the truth. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. We're quite adept at gratitude. We are when we get into recovery. We're not adept at accountability. We keep traveling with a responsibility that was necessary in a moment of recovery, but not for all of recovery. It's time to see what was accountable for what was happening through us, not by us, but through us, and tell the truth about it. Yeah. Yeah. I did not manufacture my own misery. Something used me to manufacture misery. Let's be clear. I don't see that to be true, the first part. I do not see that I, whoever that is, was busy manufacturing misery. I just don't see that. I see things took this possibility over and it led to manufacturing misery. So, do I want to burn down the factory? No, we want to have a change of regime. We want to get a new employer of the factory, a new director of the factory. The factory doesn't have to be burnt down, despised and hated and fucking like that. It had nothing to do with hey, it's like convicting the radio for playing rap. The radio just has the ability to transmit notes. It's not the chooser of the playlist. It seems so simple. It's part of having the horse in front of the cart. Yeah. I mean, if you keep calling a lot of shit moving through yours that isn't yours, I mean, where's that gonna lead? Yeah. Yeah. What takes the place of clarity? Yeah. When there's no clarity, there's rationalization, denial, blame, a lot of fucking reactions because something just won't admit it doesn't know what the fuck's going on, really. Yeah. This is what the hopes is just a simple clarity around the fabric of our existence and the thread of fear. They're different, yes? One's a thread, it's not the whole fabric. It's a thread amongst the fabric, yes? Yeah. I'm going to throw this fucking sweater out. No, don't need to throw the sweater out. Just follow that thread and see where it leads. Reliance on self. All right. Self can't throw self out, obviously. You know that.
Yeah.
So what's one to do?
Yeah.
What's one to do? Nothing. Shit will be revealed. Yes? Yeah. Maybe with that which you could not live with, you cohabitate. I don't know. It's just, I don't know is the way, really. But you take the knowledge as far as it can take you, and then it ends. Yeah. The understanding isn't the end all be all. It's the relief that's available beyond the understanding and before the understanding, really, is what I feel is worthy to be looked for. Seriously. Yeah, I don't want another understanding and then have debates with people. I'm just not into it. Yeah, I want to have relief. That's all. Yeah, I don't care how you get it. Well, I do if it's concerning, hurting others or killing me or something or yourself. But, hey, if it works, it works. So I fell upon these ideas. They came through. They've been put to the test through living. It seems like a lot of shit that I couldn't do for myself is happening. So I'm a true believer. What can I say? I've been convinced by relief. I have. You're convinced by suffering and torment, and you're also convinced by relief. Being convinced by relief. Yeah. That's the other side of the going through the being convinced by fucking demoralization, pitiful, incomprehensible shit. Now you're being convinced by relief. Hallelujah. Yeah. Yeah. The demands are completely different when being convinced by relief than being convinced by the head. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay, Paul, it's 2:30 and I don't see any other hands up at the moment. Is there anyone else that has a
Like
question?
11:30 here, but all right.
Oh, I'm
I'll
sorry.
believe
Yeah,
you, Jim. It's 2:30.
it's an hour after we started.
Yeah, I know.
Oliver has
If there's no hands, we'll say goodbye. If there's hands, we'll yeah.
Oliver has his hand up.
Oh, all right. Oliver. Oliver, where are you? Berlin, I know that, but where are you? I think I've lost Oliver.
Yeah. Hello, Oliver.
All right. Well,
Talk to Oliver.
if he comes in, we'll talk. But let's say goodbye then, eh?
Sounds
Unless
good, Paul.
anyone else has a question or a share.
Jess has her hand up, Paul. Jess.
Yeah. Jess, all right. Bring on Jess.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I don't really have a question, but I know that I come here and I never share. And I'm very grateful for the people that do. And yeah, I think I'm practicing putting myself outside of the comfort zone. So yeah, I just came to say, I don't know, just thank you, and how much I appreciate this group and your message and your consistency and just the inspiration that I get from you, and kind of knowing that I can come here even when I'm not coming to these meetings. It just helps a lot with life. So thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you. We're always happy to see you, honey. Yeah. Yeah. I think Oliver is right next to you in the Zoom. He's
Yes,
put his hand
we're talking about forgetting. I forgot to plug my microphone back in after I had some feedback. Yeah, I'm blessed with forgetting. That's definitely so. And about the forgetting of self, whatever the writer of this prayer meant by it exactly, maybe that's not, the question here, but about the self, I guess I'm more or less able to see it's not me, and I can also not take it seriously. I can laugh about it. I guess I, at some level, I lost interest in it as, realizing its powers in a sense, but, what do you really mean about, forgetting it? Because, if we constantly as conscious or, just something that is conscious and aware, we're noticing what we're not. How is it possible at the same time to forget self? Or is it actually, what the writer of this prayer meant is, forgetting the identification with self and its effects that it had on us.
I like the loss of interest in self. Like it
Mhm.
says in the third step, it pivots on losing interest in self, and then there's a lot of gaining interest in tons of other stuff. So losing interest in self would be sort of like a forgetting of self, because
Mhm.
self needs to be remembered, because it isn't true. It's not there. So it has to be remembered. Yeah.
Mhm.
So basically, if Paul's being remembered, he's not visibly there. Yeah. So the
Mhm.
self is not visibly there.
Right.
There is no self. So it has to be remembered. Yeah. There's no visibility of self. There's nothing there. It's an activity. So it's rooted in remembering. So when you're worrying about you in the future, that's a form of remembering self. When you're going over the past, that's remembering self. Worrying about the future isn't worrying about the future. That may be one aspect, but the real aspect is remembering self. So the mental condition is constantly in the act of remembering self. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What about
That way,
noticing?
in that way, in a dualistic expression, then forgetting would be the opposite of the problem. It would be part of the solution. So forgetting self. I would say the forgetting isn't, there's no you forgetting self. There's forgetting self as a you, really. Yeah. So, yeah, I like how it says in the book, we lose interest in self, and then a lot of shit gets triggered. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess what I got lost is recognizing the self manifestation not being me, as it's some sort of my new job that I'm doing.
Oh, yeah.
As I go along my daily stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that it's a matter of
That's,
consciousness, if I
yeah.
do.
Yeah. That's the head also. The head wants to make an invitation, a regimental thing. Yeah. So you see enough, and then things happen. Yeah. It's not a practice, really. You hear the message gets in, it brings about a new understanding when there's an observing of the same old, and see what comes out of that. Yeah. And it doesn't become another fucking thing that you do, hopefully, but it may for a while, and that will be instructive, because you'll see how self duplicates itself. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there's
Right.
all the time it reveals itself, there's value. Yeah. So when people call me and tell me, uh, I keep seeing more of self as if it's a drag. Hey, it may be necessary right now, because there's a value in it. Because there's a weight, and you never know when the scale's going to be tipped. Yeah. And then things become the easiest off the way. You're not doing I'm watching self all day and I'm not watching self. No, you don't, that may be a sophomoric state for a little while, but it falls off,
Mhm.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I guess where sorry, I'm just going to ask this one last. I guess where I find it particularly challenging is, as Jung said, paraphrasing, the self is manifesting itself even on the highest plane of civilization. And when you notice something like that as something like right above you, and, something that is practically unavoidable and that powerful, actually. I guess, it being that I'm really outnumbered by that I do not stand a chance as an opponent, as somebody that fights against it, as, antagonizing it.
Well,
It
see, if there's an
seems,
opponent of self, that's an aspect of self.
Absolutely, yes. But
Yeah,
you
so
know,
you don't see it as an opponent thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not little self against big self. It's just this is a disarming message in my feeling. It disarms you from all of this wrestling that we cannot stop avoiding. Yeah. It just we get engaged with the shit we'd like to be free from all the time, or as the shit. And this is just it's surrender, bro. You know, you're outmatched. Yeah, it's incomprehensible, whatever. Yeah, and I gotta grind the side of the camper. Yeah, gonna have some granola before. You know what I mean? I answer the phones if someone calls me. that's that's my heroic response. Basically. Basically. I don't believe any. I don't see it as an adversary or an opponent or anything.
Yeah.
I think it's all whatever.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of activities going. Like there's Ramana Maharshi. He would talk about, obviously there's no mind. There is no mind, small m mind. It's just activities, a compilation of activities, thoughts, perceptions, memories. There's no thing in there. There's no like depository or, central office. It's just activity. Yeah. Now, some reason or another, the activity of selfing has gotten an inordinate amount of interest and attention going its way. And that interest and attention hasn't been healthy, I don't believe, for it. It's mutated it and turned it into something. Yeah. Just like when I used to play with, you'd see a bug and you'd like to see it clearer. So you get a magnifying glass. And you don't know that the sun's right on over your shoulder, and while you're looking at the bug, you're killing it because it's getting concentrated and too focused. That's all I feel. If that attention and interest gets dispersed and selfing is an activity going on in this larger field, everything's fine, I feel. Or there's a more of a balance. It's just the myopic focus on this this activity at the expense of other activities just needs to be remedied in a way. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for the activity of selfing, obviously. Yeah. It mutates into weird versions. I'm afraid of it's gonna have a new appearance with the all the technology acting like a Narcissus's pond, people looking at an image all day,
right,
is going to have some kind of effects. I mean, it's insane, I mean, it took a quantum leap. When we were little kids, we may have stood in front of the mirror, ideating a pimple that wasn't even a pimple for 30 minutes. But now these characters have tons of technology. They're all fucking pawns they're looking at all day. It's fucking insane. I can't imagine what's going to come out of it, really. Yeah. I mean, shit. Oh, so yeah, there's a loss of interest in self. That's not a huge, it's not a shredding of the fabric of the universe. It's just a loss of interest in something that there's an inordinate amount of interest in. Yeah. And we have become that we're interested in. So we can't get interested to get out of it. That's more interested in it. Yeah. So it's been remedied by a simple understanding and a recognition of the exact nature of the wrong, which is the act of being identified as self. You are not in the act of being identified as self. The mental states are in the act of being identified as self. There's way too much attention and interest there. So there's a belief that we're self. Yeah. Yeah. So you lose interest in self, and then that binding part of it becomes less binding. Yeah. It gets weakened. Its influence weakens because it's our interest really that's feeding it. So now this interest goes somewhere else, and now it feeds other possibilities like a new attitude, new outlook, gratitude, happy, whatever, content and satisfaction. Yeah. Yeah. So
Thanks again, Paul.
yeah, that's my say for the day.
Right.
The thing is important is self cannot lose interest in self. That's gaining interest in self. When someone says they don't have any faith, there's faith in that. Faith is before us. Faith is before us. There's faith in self, and then there's a self, seemingly. Yeah? When there's loss of faith in self, then there's faith in other possibilities. Yeah? Those other possibilities override the influence of self, and you travel lighter. And then what more do you want, really? So, all right, let's say hello, goodbye. We got Deborah B. Nice to see you again, Deb. Thanks for showing up, holding down the fort. Michael Stacy, the man, the myth, the legend, the dog breeder. There he is. We got PK from Long Island. Anyone who can survive Long Island has my respect. There you go. Especially Long Island City. Well, that's sort of like the navel of the whole thing. All right, we got Kurt Z down in Redondo Beach. Nice to see you, Kurt. Hey, Kurt, do you know how to get to that meeting today I'm speaking at?
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
Can you put it on the chat, if at all? So today I'm speaking at a meeting, a recovery meeting at 4:30
Yeah,
Pacific time, 7:30. Yeah, I think Kurt has it, the Zoom, and they're gonna let me speak on being convinced self is what has defeated us for 40 minutes. Wow, it's amazing. So it'd be nice if you wanted to come over there. I think I'm gonna stall until he can put it up. So he's got the Zoom. I had it, but it was confusing to get it up on the website, so it's not there. But yeah, it's going to be a talk in a New Jersey AA book study group, something at 7:30 Eastern time. So I'll keep saying goodbye until you get it up there, Kurt. Thank you so much. We got Gary C, the man. He's not in the corner anymore. He is the corner. There you go. We got Catherine A from Maine. Maine is such a beautiful place if the weather permits. Yeah. Tommy, Stefan on Having Never Left, Kristen. We got Kelly, Annette, Roman, always. Yes. Don O. Nice to see Don O. Bill, Churchman. We got Rob from Louisville. Nice to see you, Rob. Dan H. Kim N.
Okay, thanks.
Nice to see you, Kim. Mickey, the matriarch of Madeira. Connor from Dublin. Jeff from Dublin. Oliver from Berlin. Dak, he's just a roaming nomad. Yeah. Let's see who else. We got Andy, Kurt again, Kay, Senna, Nina, there she is, Terry, Mike, SF, Carl N, I think from Ireland, Jacob from Seattle. Jacob, yeah, I like the picture. Thank you. We'll get it worked out.
you know, I sent it to Michael, Stacy, and Nina. I couldn't post it.
All right. Michael Stacy can post it, I hope. Yeah. Oliver, Connor, Ashley. Nice to see you, Ashley. Yeah. We've got Dan H again. All right. So somehow, hopefully, it's up there if you want to come to the meeting today. If not, all the events are on ZenBitSlap. Check them out. And yeah, see you guys later. Thanks. Oh, there's my friend Monique. Always a pleasure. Say hello to your mom, honey. See everybody. Bye-bye.